What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and this season was interesting, to say the least. We're almost at the end of the season now, and yeah, Luka happened, right? That in and of itself made this season crazy. Every time I see Luka in the gold and purple, because I'm making quite the effort to watch Lakers games right now, I think maybe because I'm still stunned by this, but every time I see it, it still doesn't feel real. And so today, we've got the 10 NBA plot twists that left everyone stunned this season. I feel like there have been other weird things, and so I saw this article, and I'm like, this is what I want to talk about. Like I said, we're getting towards the end of the season. Let's kind of start to recap everything and get ready for the playoffs. But hey, quick reminder, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. And hey, make sure you go give a watch to these Do They Fit in the NBA videos. These ones often get claimed by college basketball, YouTube, whoever. They say that it's not fair use. It is, because I'm making educational content, but they're my favorite videos to make on the channel, and even though I don't really get anything from them, I love sharing them with you guys. It's a big passion for me. We have a lot of fun with them, so go give them a watch. But anyway, let's talk about some plot twists. Alrighty, it would be really nice if we could just start with Luka. Perfect. Okay, that's what I wanted, because, we've covered this plenty on the channel. I feel like I bring it up in every video, in all honesty. And is it getting maybe a little old? No, not in my opinion. No, not at all. The Luka trade happened. Yep, this is real. I can't believe that this happened. Do you guys remember where you were, what you were doing when this happened? Presumably, you were in bed and or asleep and you found it in the morning. I remember experiencing this with those of you in the Discord, which, by the way, if you're not on the Discord already, why aren't you? It's in the link in the description, so go join. We're talking basketball all the time on there, but I remember posting it in there, and I'm like, hey, I think Shams got hacked, and there was kind of some silence for a little bit, and then we're all like, wait, is this actually happening, right? And then we just kept learning more and more and more until, yes, it was real. Shams wasn't hacked, and that this was actually happening. And look, we can talk about how crazy it's been, right? Luka's been looking very good recently. You can critique the defense as much as you want. That's an entirely different conversation, but Luka is playing injured right now, playing pretty good basketball for being injured and out of shape at the moment, but man, Dallas Mavericks fans, I'm so sorry. This has been possibly the worst season I've ever seen for an NBA team, and I don't know where you go from here. I don't know. It's going to be a legendary moment in basketball, probably for forever. On the opposite side of the coin, though, you look at what Lakers fans now have, and again, Mavericks fans, maybe you just want to tune out for this one, but you've got Luka now. For the next 10, 12 years, your franchise is sitting really pretty, right? It kind of revitalized you guys in a lot of ways. This might keep LeBron around longer, which trying to stretch LeBron James as long as we can, just as basketball fans, is obviously a good thing, but how long is this dude going to be productive? Because I don't even want to guess at this point, but he's obviously making LeBron's his job a lot easier by making it so that he doesn't have to be a primary ball handler anymore. That's never when LeBron's been at his best. It's better when he can play without the basketball, create opportunities for others, things like that, right? You're seeing guys like Austin Reeves, who's become the secondary ball handler role. He's really excelling in that. Guys like Rui Hachimura, Dorian Finney-Smith, big benefactors of things. Jackson Hayes looks like an NBA player now, which is awesome. This team's going to have to do a lot in the offseason for sure, because, look, this team just wasn't prepared for Luka to be on the team, but you got JJ, you got LeBron, and you got Luka. Good things are probably going to happen, right? So we don't need to talk about this anymore. You guys understand it. Next surprising thing, the Cavs run the East. I don't know if it was the most surprising, and here's why. We all looked at this Cavs team going in, and we were like, hey, on paper, this team is really, really, really good, right? We kind of said, hey, there's the Cavs, the Knicks, the Celtics, right? Maybe one other team at the beginning of the season. That's kind of who we're looking at. We're the Celtics could very well get the number one. They kind of dog it a little bit more in the regular season than a lot of other top teams do. So we were Celtics might not be number one. I'm pretty sure we predicted them number one, but still, this doesn't come as a surprise. But when Kenny Atkinson came in, we were like, hey, this coach has historically done a really good job with teams, kind of getting them to mesh and stuff. We'll see what happens. I think the biggest surprise has been that we've been able to kind of see the collective of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen really come together, because we looked at the numbers before the season and we're like, okay, it's just, I don't remember which too split-wise. I'm pretty sure it was Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen played really well together, and then Garland and Mobley played really well together, but as soon as you mix things between them, it didn't really work. Now all those things are working. Evan Mobley's finally starting to actualize some of his potential, which is awesome. You're seeing him go off the dribble a little bit more, shoot a little bit more here and there. He's become like the true kind of third scorer on the team. Jared Allen's obviously awesome. They went and added DeAndre Hunter, which was an awesome addition. They really gave up next to nothing to get him, which is still a shocking move to me. Honestly, that's more of a weird trade, is that DeAndre Hunter became such a good player, and then they gave him away for nothing. I'm not saying they shouldn't have traded him, but feels like maybe they could have gotten a little bit more. So this team seems ready, man. I'm still going to pick the Celtics to come out of the East right now, just because I've seen it already. But look, if the Cavs go and get it done, not going to be surprised either. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens, but shout out Cleveland, man. This is awesome. Is there anything else they've said about him? It's been a big year of growth for the Cavs. Garland, yep, bounce back year, blah, 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 blah. Mobley's taking a big leap. That's what we said. Yeah, no, this is awesome. I'm excited to watch this team do it, man. I think it's a good group. The Kings become the Kangs again. Yeah. This one, I didn't see it being this bad. I'll be honest with you. I didn't see it being this bad. So coming in, you had the Fox Sabonis thing, which had been working. It was weird that Keon Ellis wasn't playing at the beginning of the season, right? Keegan Murray he just couldn't figure it out. Kevin Huerter just never figured it out. He's starting to play decent for the Bulls, at least, so shout out Kevin Huerter. And like their bench was just kind of non-existent, right? They just never really got anything going. Even the little bit that you were hoping to get a Devin Carter as a rookie, he got hurt, and then he just hasn't been very good since he's been playing, so you know, what are you going to do? He's a rookie. But the De'Aaron Fox thing happens because they're not playing well. They get rid of the coach. He wants out of there. Bringing in DeMar DeRozan doesn't really help things. They added Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine can score with the best of them, but this is still basically the Chicago Bulls again, where it's Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and then center, right? That's what you have. And so, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, I don't know where they're going at this point. We've talked a lot about the De'Aaron Fox trade on here. It was an unfortunate situation that could have happened, and it did happen. And they were put in this spot where they had to do something, and I think they did all right, all said and done. They did everything they could. They brought back a little bit of draft capital. Zach LaVine has debatably even been better than De'Aaron Fox. It's just this team still isn't very good, right? It's very incomplete. There's no guard play. They have no rim protection, really. Sabonis is a good defender in and of itself, but they have no rim defense, and that's just an area that they're missing. And so this team that kind of rose from the ashes, it had been one of the poverty franchises for forever. They had the light the beam moments, and now I don't know where they're going, right? I really thought we were going to see more out of Keegan Murray. A little bit scared that we're not developing him correctly because I see so much talent in him, but I'm starting to lose a little bit of faith. I'm not going to lose all the faith, I promise you. It's just it's kind of coming back to earth that these are the Kangs, right? Is that this just is historically a team that does not make the best decisions and things do not go well for them. So I feel like we kind of have to be on watch for that. So what do they do next year, though? Because they have a lot of guys under contract. You start to try to trade them. It's very hard to trade like star-level players, and they have quite a few of them. They don't really have a young core to sit on and be excited about, so what kind of draft capital can you get? Because people aren't just throwing around draft capital for anybody nowadays. Like DeRozan can still go get buckets with the best of them. Sabonis is an all-NBA player. It should be easy enough to get a haul for him. And then Zach LaVine, everybody sees the offense, right? And he's fine on defense at this point. It's just who's going to take on that contract and lock themselves into that team. It's the same discussion that the Bulls were having, right? So the Kings bought themselves a little bit of time, but now what do you do? What do you do, right? Because I believe they're the 10 seed currently, so they're going to have a shot in the play-in, and hey, when you have all those great offensive players, anything can happen. You have a lot of clutch players on the team, so I guess we'll see. The Rockets relaunch out of the West. This is a bit of a shock to me, and here's why. Coming into this season, I didn't put the Rockets that high. I was like, okay, a lot of young players, not really sure how it's all going to fit together, and it's been pretty surprisingly good. I think all of us look at the Rockets and we say, though, maybe not all of us, I think Rockets fans are probably a little bit more delusional because they want to believe that all their young players are studs right at this very moment, and I know that's not every Rockets fan, but I like to imagine that that's some of you. I don't think when you look at this team that it spells playoff success. I'm very curious when a team has time to game plan for these guys. And look, the Rockets have been slipping ever so slightly ever since kind of the All-Star break, right? I wonder when teams have time to prepare for them, what they're going to do come playoff time, because they just kind of don't have that guy that can really go get them a bucket whenever they need to. And a lot of times that's what the playoffs come down to, is having guys that can just go get a bucket. Like Jalen Green is the closest thing you have to that, and I think even Rockets fans would be like, ooh, I don't really love the sound of that. Şengün's awesome. Amen Thompson is awesome. Like, those guys, really, really good. Like, I like Tari Eason a ton. There's going to be questions about what to do with Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr. this offseason. I mean, Fred VanVleet, are we continuing to pay him? What's kind of going on there? He's obviously a good leader. Dylan Brooks, hopefully he doesn't fight anybody and get suspended, because he's actually been a pretty critical part to the team this season. I don't know, right? I'm more so curious about what happens this offseason. We've seen some success. We kind of know who the couple real studs on the team are. Now I feel like you have to start prioritizing, like, building a team kind of around those guys. It still feels like, though, they're missing that 1A option, which is really hard to find. And what's kind of unfortunate is typically you hope to find that before you start to build a lot of the rest of the team, and maybe they were hoping they had that with Jalen Green, and I can understand why you would hope for that, but it just doesn't seem like he's gonna figure that stuff out. He's a good basketball player, don't get me wrong. It's just we understand what's up with Jalen Green, right? Like, he just doesn't play basketball at a high, like, IQ level is the best way to put it, right? There's a ton of talent, but how is it going to be actualized in the basketball court? Hard to say. So again, I feel like you've got Amen, you've got Şengün. I really like Tari Eason. After that, you got to go try and find that stud. I don't know who that is, because I don't think, like, the Devin Booker is going to be available. I'd love to see Devin Booker on this team. I think that'd be really, really cool. I'm not sure just throwing Kevin Durant on this team is what you need to do either, even though I'm sure they'll be in the discussion for it. But it's interesting. This is going to be a really interesting team to follow, because I don't know where they go from here, but they've made a nice jump. And look, when you've got a young team like this, just winning some basketball games is super valuable. So I hope it doesn't seem like I'm being too critical of this team, because they're doing the right things. They're winning basketball games. I just wonder how much postseason success they're going to have because of this, and that's okay, right? This is their first time kind of getting there, so let's roll the ball out there and see what happens. Maybe they shock us all. Maybe Jalen Green becomes a stud come playoff time. Maybe Amen Thompson all of a sudden pulls out a jumper. He's been shooting more of them. So, and the form doesn't look great still, and that's okay, right? He's still an awesome player, but maybe some threes fall, and all of a sudden we've got a little something, right? But Rockets, very cool season. Very cool season. You did the right thing. On the contrary, the sun setting in Phoenix, yeah, I genuinely didn't expect this either. I really thought that things were going to go better this season, and I think the narrative that I've been pushing about, like, this team did everything correct except in the coaches that they've hired in this time. And I think you're starting to see that narrative pop out a little bit more, as we're seeing kind of Kevin Durant mention it a little bit to the media, like, oh, like, coaching was kind of this, or you saw him in timeouts being like, what are you doing? What are you drawing up? Like, no, just do this or do this. Like, clearly, like, and look, when there's losing, people are going to start to point fingers at each other. That's just what happens in sports, right? But I don't know, man. I just don't think Coach Bud has done a great job. It either feels like nobody's moving, or they're just doing something crazy out there that I can't even quite follow. It seems too complicated, honestly, at times. You've got Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. They can get you buckets at any moment. Tyus Jones is there to facilitate everything. You went and got the center in Nick Richards. That was awesome. You went and tried to add a little bit more depth in other parts of the roster, and I really do feel like James Jones did a good job of adding talent where they had very little wiggle room to do so, because they're paying their top three guys. But health obviously played somewhat of a part in this story, but overall, you look at this team in the top three guys, and they're still a positive on the court, but they just couldn't quite get it going. And it's been a rough back end of this season. Like, don't get me wrong, it has been really rough. They just can't get anything going at this point. So I do think the sun is going to set. I think you're going to see Durant get traded. That feels like a foregone conclusion at this point, and that just sounds crazy to say that it's just that set in stone that he's gone, but just feels like what needs to happen. I think Beal will be willing to get moved now somewhere, and I think he can be really valuable to some team. I immediately think Detroit Pistons would be really, really cool to send him there. And Pistons fans, relax, right? You can afford to pay him. You have plenty of cap space, so just take the good veteran player, help your team grow. Don't question it, all right? The logic makes sense. I promise you it does. keep Booker around. He's taken you to a finals before. He's young enough still. Try to retool around him because look, you might not get like a ton of draft capital for like a KD or a Beal at this point, but if we can just get enough solid players to try to keep the Suns competitive and you still have Booker, you got to try and build a team like you had before. You really, really do. Hey, maybe you can go get Ayton or something again. I'm sure they'd be willing to give him back. So I don't know. Let's try and build something around Devin Booker at this point. But man, I really thought it would go better. I really, really did. So sorry, Phoenix fans. It just didn't happen, and that's unfortunate. Where's KD gonna go, though? By the way, I know all of us are kind of thinking Memphis just feels like the really obvious thing. They've got the resources to do so, and they've needed a wing for forever. I'm sure we're gonna talk about Memphis later in this video, by the way, so I'm not gonna go into too much detail. But them, the Rockets, those kind of seem like the two teams. I don't know where else. Maybe the Timberwolves, right? Maybe that's why they got the Timberwolves kind of shown on here. I don't know, but I think it'll be interesting. Jimmy Butler becoming a Warrior. I don't know if it was a shock, because like we had heard the ideas about like, okay, Golden State wants to add another star. The name Jimmy Butler had been thrown around a little bit, right? They were like, hey, if the Heat want to blow things up, can we do a Kuminga and Andrew Wiggins swap for it? And it turns out you didn't even have to do that necessarily, which is pretty nuts. But I think it's more so like how the Butler thing unfolded. And maybe it sounds crazy to say that I'd be surprised that that's how it ended, considering Jimmy Butler has ended those situations a couple other times in flames, if you would. By the way, these shoes are fire. Super, super cool. But I don't know. I still think it's kind of crazy, like how it went down in the sense of like two people just butting heads that much between Jimmy and Pat, and it just not really going well. The suspensions, like, just went on a lot longer than I thought it was going to. But Jimmy becoming a Warrior in the way that it happened, I guess the trade itself wasn't anything stupendous for the Heat. So I don't know, but Jimmy's been great since coming to Golden State, right? I mean, I just saw the thing that, like, when they start X lineup, I want to say it's Steph, Pods, Moody, Jimmy, and maybe Draymond or something like that they're like 11-0. The Warriors are back up to, like, the 5th seed. They weren't even really in the playoffs when the Butler trade went down before, so things are going well, right? Motivated Jimmy Butler, believe it or not, very, very good. I think Jimmy Butler had, like, 27 points just last night or something like that against a struggling Memphis team. Again, I'm sure we'll talk about Memphis, and there's a reason I haven't done a video on the firing yet, just because I find it interesting, to say the least. But no, Jimmy becoming a Warrior, I could have seen it, but it's certainly been a cool thing to see happen. For their part in the trade, the Golden State were more focused on other players. Their first targets were Zach LaVine and Vucevic. When that fell through, don't remind me that the Bulls just did that. Can we just talk about the non-shock of the Bulls just failing again this season? I don't know. Pistons go from worst to playoffs. We were one of the few people, I feel like, on this channel that was like, I think the Pistons are going to be better this year. Well, we were pretty confident about that, right? Because they actually added NBA players to the team, right? And we were like, I think Cade Cunningham's going to be a most improved player guy this year, and that came true. How good the Pistons became is a little bit more shocking, right? JB Bickerstaff, as much as I question your rotations at times, you're getting wins out of this team. Obviously, Cade Cunningham being awesome, that's a big thing. Asar Thompson's been, it's been great to see him get healthy and play well. Malik Beasley has been absolutely critical to them this year. Tobias Harris is even playing well now. The energy that Jalen Duren has had on the basketball court is awesome. Even if defensively there's still a time or two where possessions are taken off, defense is getting a lot better. Like when he's going. Dude's big, strong, and powerful. It's nice to have a guy like that next to Cade. But again, just adding the vets like the Tim Hardaway Juniors as well to the team have gone a long way. Bringing Dennis Schroeder in has been awesome. It's been awesome to watch Marcus Sasser kind of get some burn. And despite Jaden Ivey going down when he was having like a kind of like burst onto the scene season, finally, again, because you put actual NBA players on the team, you have to put vets on a team. You have to put actual competent players around your young guys. We talk about it all the time on the channel. It just works. That's what you're supposed to do. But yeah, despite Jaden Ivey going down, like we've had rises from the guys like Marcus Sasser, and Schroeder being added to the team, I think, was just another good veteran addition. What is this team going to do come playoff time? I don't know, but it doesn't matter, right? We said going into this season, you have to win some games to win some games. That's just what has to happen. I know I got a comment not too long ago on the channel, and thank you guys for the comments as always, where someone said, I finally kind of get what you mean by saying you have to win some games to win some games, because that's what Detroit did. They paid some money, they invested in some players to help them win, and because of it, it's pulling up these young guys and making them play all the better. And now all of a sudden there's a little bit of momentum that, like, we're kind of running downhill now and we're going in the right direction. And also, can I just say, it feels so good to have Detroit be good at basketball and be a little bit mean again. Doesn't that just feel like how it's supposed to be? Like, Isaiah Stewart, as much as like people mock up trades from, me included, he kind of just has to stay in Detroit at this point as the mean backup center for them that is just willing to fight people at a moment's notice. Like that brawl that happened the other day against Minnesota. Awesome, right? Just awesome that happened. Like, do I root for violence? No, I never root for violence, but like I do a little bit because I'm an average sports fan at the end of the day, and I think that it's awesome when that stuff gets down. I've gotten in plenty of scraps playing basketball. It's just what it is. You're competing with people, right? Probably don't bring it into the stands, but overall, it's a lot of fun, and it's cool to see the Pistons have a little bit of tood to them, right? We always say on this channel we like a little bit of tood, and they're bringing a little bit of tood right now. Isaiah Stewart wants to smoke it any single moment, which is cool. So good to see Detroit doing their thing. We absolutely love it. The Trailblazers second half. Yeah, that is kind of interesting, isn't it? We've made fun of Portland's we'll say decision making quite a bit this season, because look, like, I'll just restate it again, they've just got a lot of players on this team that are in the way of young guys that we're trying to get better, right? Because we see a lot of potential in them, because there's like 5 guys that we're really interested in watching on this team. Let's go through each of them. Scoot Henderson, right? We saw the jump at one point this season of Scoot Henderson. The 3 ball was falling. The assists have been like awesome this year. The defense was picking up at one point. He can navigate the pick and roll like something crazy, right? It's kind of starting to fall back off again. But we've seen the glimmer now of why he's such a touted prospect. The athleticism is awesome. When he gets going downhill, it's really, really good. It's just, it never feels like he always has the right team around him, right? And that's the topic of conversation. Shaedon Sharpe, someone I did not actually expect to like as much this year. I've kind of been very wishy-washy when it comes to Shaedon Sharpe. I've kind of just kept saying, yeah, I know he's like a great athlete, but I'm like, I just don't see much else kind of going on to really be like too excited about it. This back half of the year, like, he's shown a little bit more like, okay, I've got this counter move, and now actually got this counter move, and I can get to this shot on the court. It's still not like great, but I'm starting to see it now where I'm like, okay, wait, no, we got a little something here. There's a little bit of spark on the or we have a little bit of a spark in the fire, right? And so now the coach in me wants to fan it a little bit and see what happens, right? I'm like, okay, let's try this. Let's try this. I want to see where this can potentially go. Next one, Tamani Kamara, absolute wrecking ball defensively. Is he like top 10 defender? No, but like, dude is pretty impactful on that end of the court. The 3 ball's starting to fall more consistently. We're seeing him cut to the hoop and make some things happen. He's a decent enough athlete. When you got a guy that size that can move pretty well, he's playing that great of defense, cool. You got him for a steal. Next one, Denny. Denny looks awesome. We said when the trade happened between them and the Wizards, I was like, what are the Wizards doing? I was like, the whole point of trying to get these draft picks and everything is so that you can develop good young players. You've developed like no talent ever. All of a sudden, Denny starts to show that he's like looking pretty good, and you have him on an awesome contract, and they traded him. I was like, this trade made no sense for Washington. And I continue to say that. I do not care if you like Bub Carrington. Like, Bub Carrington's interesting. He's interesting. That's the most I'll probably say about him. But Denny is so much better. So much better. And like, look, he looks like one of the best transition players in the NBA at this point, but you actually give him the ball a little bit, like what people talked about when he was coming into the league, like, hey, bigger ball handler, can facilitate, create for himself a little bit. Funny enough, you start doing that a little bit like the Wizards were doing at the end of last season. He's been really, really awesome for them this year. And then Donovan Clingan looks like exactly what we said. We had him number 3 on our big board coming in this season, right? I was like, this guy is surefire, like starting center ready day one. And I will say day one, he was not as ready because for whatever reason, he just hasn't been in great shape this year. But we've seen the moments where we're like, yeah, this guy is going to be a absolute force because he's just so massive. Like, the shot blocking is awesome. The rebounding is awesome. Just got to get him in a little bit better shape, and he kind of sucks at finishing around the rim at times. How many times have I seen him like just go up and kind of trick like a point blank shot and then just go up and get it again and then kind of put it in because he's big as shit, right? So I don't know, Portland, you've got some pieces. Just get the other guys out of the way. Can we move Jeremy Grant somehow? Can we move Ayton somehow? Can we get Anthony Simons off this team and please ship him to Orlando? Please, we've been waiting for forever. I'm not even sure that's the best solution at this point. I'm just like begging you guys to do so. Like there's just so many guys that need to move. Also, can we play Delano Banton? Shout out Delano Banton in the background, who again is starting to show something at the end of the year when you give him minutes. I just feel like dude could be something for someone. Go be a minimum contract guy for some contender next year. Send his ass to Denver. Go sign with Denver. They could use another ball handler. So I would like to see that, please. But no, Portland, what an interesting back half of the year. Things started to get better. You're probably still not going to make the play-in. That's okay. We've seen a little bit of stuff here, and I just want to see more of it. Can we just get those kind of 5 guys on the court and see what happens? Find out who the studs are? That's all I'd like, please, and thank you. Season from hell in Philadelphia. Yeah, this was... I don't think you could have predicted this. If you would have told me going into the season, oh, Joel Embiid gets hurt, I would have been like, oh, no. Like, well, they still have Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and they've got a decent supporting cast, so I guess we'll see what happens. Like, Drummond can play a little bit of center at this point, a little bit. Like, he can play more than that, just not in large bursts. I feel like Andre Drummond's never on the court for more than, like, 3 minutes at a time from Philadelphia. If you guys have a stat to back up my theory on that, then let me know. I don't know. Man, this season sucked for Philly. It just did. Like, Paul George was not healthy the whole season. I'm not ready to write off Paul George's career like other people on basketball Twitter, right? It's just idiotic to say that. Paul George has been an elite player in this league for so long, and clearly he was very injured this season. The Joel Embiid stuff is pretty crazy. I'm not even going to comment on, like, some of the stuff where there people are talking about how he doesn't really he's just kind of mean within the organization, which... I don't know. I hear things from both sides of it, so I don't really have an opinion on it. Again, so no comment there. But the injuries, man, what do you do at this point? I mean, he's falling over people and during warm-ups and getting hurt, and he did not look right this whole season. I know he's a former MVP and everything, and that's what's going to make this offseason so interesting. You guys have probably heard me say a couple times, I would love to be a fly in the wall in Philadelphia for this offseason. I really would, because the conversations are being had, right? Where they're like, okay, do we have to move on from Joel Embiid? Because they do kind of have an out, which is Tyrese Maxey is really, really good. Jared McCain looked like he was going to be kind of good, so you kind of have a young backcourt already. Justin Edwards, I'm not saying he's going to be a stud, but like you kind of hit on an undrafted guy too. Was he undrafted or second round? I can't remember exactly, but he's looking like he's going to be an NBA talent, right? Like having a pretty solid rookie season. So you're like, okay, like we kind of have a little bit of a young core right here. We could get a little something for Embiid. Do we move on? What do we do with Paul George then? I don't know. Like it just becomes a really interesting conversation because I don't know how this team competes if Embiid's not healthy, right? And even when healthy, can Embiid actually win you a championship? I don't know. He does just kind of feel like he's in that category of players that like he's too easy to game plan for come playoff time, that it's just not going to happen. Like the closest we got was when Jimmy Butler was just willing this team there that one season, right? And that just might be a Jimmy Butler is that powerful to make it happen kind of thing, right? So I don't know, but it was a season from hell for sure. Philly fans, I'm very curious. What do you want to see happen at this point? Try to really be realistic with it too. Like take a second and be like, okay, Joel Embiid is really, really good. Do I actually want him? And then if so, what would I want? Or if I don't, what would I actually want to get back for him? Are we doing kind of a soft rebuild? I don't know. I think this draft pick could make a big deal too, because if they slide up into the top 3 or 4 and they get another like young stud, if they walk away with like an Ace Bailey or something like that, or a Cooper Flagg, even VJ, I suppose, things get even more interesting, right? Because now that might really give you permission to kind of do a bit of a rebuild, which I know Philly fans are probably scared of, right? Just because of the process that you went through before, but I don't know. And then how do you even move like an Embiid or something like that? I don't know. I just genuinely don't know. And then the Paul George situation, I'm sure he'll be in trade rumors, but I don't know. If I had to put money on it, I think they're just going to run it back with this group and hope that they're healthy after a full off season, because we never really got to see it healthy. So that's what I think is going to happen. That's going to be what I guess. Oh, also they have to re-sign Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes is awesome. The Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins. So I never made a video on this, just because I kept waiting for more details to come out, and they never really did. So let's get it out in the open, right? This was a weird move. We just have never seen a firing like this kind of happen this late in the season. Where look, the team is good in most aspects, right? And I'll get into it, Grizzlies fans. I know. I'll get into it, right? Record-wise, y'all are pretty good, right? Pretty good basketball team. If you're actually watching the Grizzlies, it's been kind of a downward spiral, right? They can't beat good basketball teams. They've been some really embarrassing losses. It's been tough. Ja Morant has also been in and out of the lineup like crazy this year. I don't think I've seen Ja Morant play more than 3 basketball games in a row this season. By the way, dude made a slight gesture in a game last night. I'm recording this on Wednesday, so very curious to see what happens with that. Do other NBA players do stuff like that? Yeah, but when Ja Morant does it, what's going to happen, right? Is he going to get a little slap on the wrist? I don't know. It seems like Ja wasn't really getting along with Mr. Jenkins. It seems like the guy that they named the new head coach, or at least the interim head coach, was kind of the guy in charge of running the offense, and Taylor was kind of trying to change it a little bit. And Ja was more of a fan of kind of being in the pick and roll and stuff like the other guy was saying. But regardless, like, you're so close to the end of the season that you end up in this situation. Now, I've tried to rationalize a couple reasons why you might do this. There's part of me that says, like, okay, well, maybe they just planned on firing him anyway because things just weren't going great. He's one of the most, is he like the most winning coach in their history or something like that? He's definitely like up there, right? He's got to be up there, but clearly things were not going perfect, and you don't want to sit with like an average coach if you don't want to, right? So let's just say they were planning on firing him. Maybe what they kind of thought was like, hey, this could spark the team, right? Which it very well could. Something like that could kind of take the monkey off the back, and now all of a sudden your guys are kind of motivated, ready to go. It puts your coaching staff in a pretty tough situation, but maybe it sparks your team. Maybe you don't think you can really go anywhere this year anyway, at least anywhere too deep. So you hope that this kind of spark boosts you a little bit. My other thought is maybe they're like, okay, well, what if this happens? What if we kind of know we're getting rid of him this offseason? Taylor Jenkins takes us into the playoffs, and all of a sudden, we go on a little mini run, right? Things go pretty well. We can't fire him now. That's going to look stupid, so let's just not even let him get to that point, right? This is a PR game at the end of the day, a little bit as well, right? So that's a possibility, right? I just think that could happen. I think it's important to say when talking about Taylor Jenkins is this front office hasn't exactly done completely right by him. Completely right. This team has done a really great job of drafting talent, right? Like, they have found young talent, thrown it on this team. We've talked the whole year about how the Grizzlies are like 13 players deep. But what we've also said about the Grizzlies is they are, despite being very deep, they have very glaring holes. They still don't really have the center that they're looking for on this team. Zach Edey is like, he's Zach Edey, right? He's pretty much exactly what I said coming into this year. I'm like, he's a gimmick player. He's going to come in, he's going to make an impact, but you can't really play him as like your starting center the whole game. And that's fine. Hopefully he continues to grow and develop, stuff like that. As of right now, that's not really where I see him going, but I think he's going to be in the NBA for a long time. I just think it's, again, more of the gimmick role. They haven't addressed the wing position in forever. How many years has it been that this team's been asking to add a good wing to this team and they just haven't been able to do it? Jalen Wells is doing his best impersonation of it, but look, like, he's still a second-round pick rookie who he was shooting the shit out of the basketball this year. It's kind of starting to come back down to earth a little bit now. That wasn't going to be the solution come playoff time. So you still just had these gaps, right, that the team couldn't fill. They were in so many conversations to go get centers this year, and they just never seemed to win in any of the trade conversations that they were in. So I don't know if I can completely blame Taylor Jenkins, but look, if you lost the locker room, I know this sounds like Twitter talk. They're like, well, he lost the locker room, so that's what it is. Like, y'all don't know what's going on in that locker room. Like, no matter what goes out to the media, I promise you don't actually know what's going on in that locker room. Like, as someone that's been in these locker rooms, like, not much really gets out. Not a ton gets out. Not a lot of the real opinions do. There's a lot of PR training behind this. Do things squeak out? Yes, they do. But trust me, you don't actually know what people are thinking. I promise. So, but if the guys were really starting to question him that much, I can't completely fault it, but it's weird. It's still weird. It's a kind of a risky move, but this is where they found themselves. So that's just what it is. But anyway, those are some of the things that stunned us this year in the NBA. Ultimately, the Luka thing, wow. Wow. Still can't believe that happened. Sorry, Mavericks fans. But Lakers fans, great for you guys. Anyway, let me know what kind of stunned you guys this year. I'm sure it was covered in some capacity here, but if there's something that was left off, let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for the comment of the video. Alrighty, comment of the video is coming from our latest mock draft video. These are a lot of fun to make. We actually simulated the lottery itself. I did my own mock draft. It's a lot of fun, but I actually haven't responded to any of the comments yet. I always say I respond to every single comment. As you can see, I have a lot up here to respond to, and I will respond to all these as soon as I'm done recording. So just you wait. But the comment of the video is coming from Hugh Good here. He said, as the loudest actual voice in San Antonio, as in my actual yells, I have to believe you, it is fitting for me to accept Knipple to the Spurs. Star Trek mode, con, aka Alien in the Mask. I just love that. I love the fandom and everything. I think that's super cool. But anyway, seriously, leave me a comment, because you guys might end up as the comments of the video, and go join the Discord if you haven't. Why haven't you joined the Discord yet is the real question. The link is right there. Click it. We are talking hoops all the time. How many notifications do I have here? It looks like I've got 1, 7, 9, 10, 12. Looks like 10, 12, 13 since I've started recording 30-ish minutes ago. So we're talking on there all the time. And this is early in the morning too. So that tells you a little something. Go join the Discord. Why haven't you? Hop on there. Start chatting it up with people. It's a welcoming community. But anyway, I appreciate you guys as always. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much.